It goes without saying that Motown's legacy wouldn't be nearly as huge were it not for the tempting temptations and the splendid, sublime Supremes. In fact, these two groups are the undisputed archetypes when it comes to vocal groups. Think New Edition, Jodeci, Boyz II Men. Think Destiny's Child, TLC, En Vogue, even the 3 Degrees. These two Motown groups set the template for all of them. From their catchy ballads to their unique choreography and undeniable stylish and flashy outfits. They set the standard so high that sometimes it feels like they don't get enough praise. And while it's no secret that Motown put them on the map, what if I told you the high standards they upheld was first envisioned by one man and one man only, and that all that Motown did was buy off the idea?
I read in one article where you said the one thing you didn't like was the myth that he molded all of you folk from poor ghetto children, from nothingness to these fine women of class.
Yes.
You say, hey, we were something before we came there.
What did Barry Gordy do for the Temptations? He didn't really have a lot to do for us, because we already kind of knew where we were going and what we wanted. We knew we wanted to record. We knew we already could perform.
Let's start with the man who people would say made you, if you will. Even though, and I know you kind of cringe when you hear that, because...
No, I don't.
Well, and I say this, and you can tell me if this is true. And of course, we're talking about Barry Gordy. I read...
Oh, I thought you were okay.
Who, you ask? Milton Jenkins, Detroit's finest street hustler. Jenkins was the man. Tall, dark, and handsome, he was known for his flashy sharkskin suits, badass automobiles, and beautiful women.
Milton Jenkins was a player. I mean, he had women and he was into all kind of action, but he also was a part-time manager.
Milton Jenkins. He dressed really slick and he cruised around in a big red Cadillac convertible. It was Milton Jenkins who really got us started.
As an entrepreneur, a commercial artist, and a street ambassador, Jenkins was well known in Detroit's fast crowd. He had the charm, the swagger, the charisma.
A man with his arm in a sling, driving a sharp red, white Cadillac, drove slowly past our house. We were wondering why the man was staring at us so hard. And all of a sudden, he turned his car around and pulled up on our front porch, got out of his car and introduced himself. And he said his name is Milton Jenkins.
And the way he carried himself was exactly how he wanted the groups he managed to be portrayed.
Like to look good, and when you look good, you feel good, right? And you wanted to be kind of charismatic, you know, the whole...
It was by these very standards, instilled in the Primes and Primettes, that they would go on to become Motown's flagship acts and the very face of the Motown sound.
A man by the name of Milton Jenkins, he was interested in my voice. He was then managing a group called the Primes, which consisted of Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams, who were the Temptations.
We rehearsed on our own, we dressed our own selves, so we didn't fall in the category of being taught, or how to look, how to dress, how to do this. We already knew how to do all that.
Eddie and Paul taught us all about choreography, teaching us all these things like that. And they were very instrumental in the Supremes today.
But how exactly did he come up with this dream? Why does his name never make the headlines? Was he a visionary genius? Or just a hustler who saw the people he managed as a meal ticket out of poverty? Why did he mysteriously cut contacts with the groups he managed at their height of fame?
Guy whose name was Milton Jenkins, he the one took us. And we got there, and he's doing a good job of managing us, but we happened to just break up.
This is the story of Milton Jenkins. Milton C. Jenkins was born on September 28, 1920, in Birmingham, Alabama, to Charles and Mary Lois Jenkins. One of 13 children, many of whom had died in a tuberculosis epidemic years earlier, Milton grew up feeling responsible for his family. As a young man, there was nothing for him in Alabama, and after years of streetwise hustling failed to yield satisfactory financial rewards, he decided to move north to try his luck. Upon his arrival in Detroit, Jenkins, working as a clerical salesman at the time, quickly became part of the show business crowd that frequented Hastings Street, an area known for its popular nightclubs, hotels, and restaurants. There was something seedy yet glamorous about the area. It was a place where things happened. There were big spenders and gorgeous women, all living the easy life, or at least a life that seemed a lot easier than working in an auto factory. Jenkins moved into a residential hotel, a 4-family house that had been converted into a single-room occupancy hotel, across from the Flame Show Bar, and he was more than happy to meet and rub elbows with the musicians and singers who passed through. Although he lacked artistic talent, he loved show business. He had the enthusiasm and a strong drive to make money, big money, and showbiz was undoubtedly the perfect cash cow, the best route to his dream. His strategy was simple: manage and invest in as many young, self-driven, up-and-coming acts as possible. His team had to look the part, something future Original Temptations wardrobe manager Eddie Kendricks would later carry on to Motown.
I like to look good, and when you look good, you feel good, right? And you wanted to be kind of charismatic, the whole 9 yards.
With the strategy in place, the next step was to scout for talent. So Jenkins began to shop around. In his search, around the fall of 1958, Milton came across an article in a local Cleveland newspaper about a young act from his native Alabama going by the name the Bomalas, dubbed the Dishwashing Trio. The group, Kel Osborne, Paul Williams, and Eddie Kendricks, was on the verge of giving up and heading back to Alabama after failing to make an impression around Cleveland. At that point, they had resorted to working as dishwashers at the Majestic Hotel just to stay afloat. Milton Jenkins believed he'd found his meal ticket. Destination, Cleveland. Milton arrived at the Majestic Hotel in style, parking his Pimpmobile out front before heading into the Rose Room. On the marquee that night, headlined by the popular dancer and contortionist Caldonia Young, were the Bomalas. They may not have entirely escaped kitchen duty, but they had likely earned a recurring spot at the club thanks to the publicity they'd garnered. Jenkins was clearly taken with the handsome young men. Later that night, he went backstage to meet them and pitched himself as a manager of distinction. It didn't take long to convince them. He proposed they move to Detroit and rebrand as the Primes, outfitting them with stylish clothes and suits to make them look the part. After settling in Detroit, the Primes brought live music to sock hops, teen dances, basement parties, anywhere they could perform. Paul quickly gained popularity as a master showman with smooth choreography and a soulful baritone voice, while Eddie was nicknamed Matinee Idol thanks to his boyish good looks and sweet high tenor. Kel, as usual, was seen as the leader, and the girls loved his tenor voice just as much. Paul Williams even got a girlfriend. Eager to impress her, he pitched the idea of a sister group to Milton Jenkins, who quickly and gladly approved. So, the crew piled into Milton's red Cadillac and took a trip to the Brewster Douglas Projects to scout for talent. A young lady named Florence Glenda Ballard was sitting on the porch with her sister Maxine when Milton stopped his car right in front of them. He asked, "Do you girls sing?" Maxine replied that she didn't, but her sister Flo did.
A man with his arm in a sling, driving a sharp red, white Cadillac, drove slowly past our house. We were wondering why the man was staring at us so hard. And all of a sudden, he turned his car around and pulled up on our front porch, got out of his car, and introduced himself. And he said his name is Milton Jenkins.
Milton arranged an audition at his place, where Florence Ballard made a lasting impression. Having outdone herself at the audition, Ballard was commissioned by Jenkins to find other members to form the Prime's sister group, the Primettes. She immediately invited her good friend Mary Wilson, who in turn brought along another neighborhood pal, Diane Earl, later known as Diana Ross.
Florence came up to me on the playground and she said, Mary, she said, this group called the Primes want to put a girl group together. My sister is dating one of the guys, and their manager, Milton Jenkins, wants to know if I want to be in it. She said, I told them about you, and she said, then I heard they were going to go across the street. You know this girl, Diane, that lives right across the street from you.
Betty McGlown soon rounded out the quartet.
And then there was another girl there, Betty. I guess she had been dating one of the guys, and we all chimed in and sang the song. Not taught anything, and it sounded beautiful. So Milton said, all right, we got the group. We're the Primes and you're the Primettes.
McGlown would leave the group in 1962 and be replaced by Barbara Martin. When Martin also departed, Ballard, Wilson, and Ross decided the group would remain a trio. As for Maxine, though she didn't sing, she never regretted her decision to stay out of the spotlight. Instead, she became Milton's girlfriend and would later marry him, going on to have 5 children together.
And after staring at Paul and Eddie for a minute, your eyes drifted to Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, they did.
Well.
It was a lovely person.
Once it became clear that the girls would be working together regularly, Milton went to meet their parents to put their minds at ease. He quickly won over the Primettes' parents with his charm, and Paul and Eddie's sincerity sealed the deal. They explained their plans to make the girls a polished, complimentary act to the Primes. They emphasized that they'd only be performing at sock hops and local social events, no bars or nightclubs.
And we did a lot of record hops, sock hops. I'm sure you're not familiar with those terms now. But we did all those things around Detroit, working at the 20 Grand, the Greystone ballrooms.
Milton stressed the importance of discipline and asked for permission for them to go straight to his place for rehearsals after school, which was approved, with the parents happy that the girls would be spending free time doing something positive and safe. The two groups became known all over Detroit and would always be the first groups to be invited to events. Everything was going on well for the two groups up until early 1960, when things began to change. For one, Milton Jenkins started to fade from their lives. At first, he just missed the occasional rehearsal or maybe a show. But as time went on, he became harder to reach, sometimes disappearing entirely. It was later learned that his arm, which he had injured in a serious car accident while returning from Montreal, had become gangrenous. He had made a mistake of refusing to return for further treatment after the first treatment, a decision that proved nearly fatal. In intolerable pain and burning with fever, he had finally stumbled into a hospital where doctors at first believed they'd have to amputate his withered arm if he made it to the table, since they also thought he was close to dying. However, he would respond to medication and transfusions and make it through. His absence had a major impact on both groups. The Primes' careers were effectively put on hold, forcing them to temporarily return to Birmingham. Eventually, Kel Osborne moved to California to pursue a solo career, while Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams joined Otis Williams and The Distance to form the Elgins, a group that would later evolve into the Temptations. The Primettes, on the other hand, soon joined Berry Gordy at Motown, transforming into the Supremes. Although both groups eventually cut ties with Milton Jenkins, they carried forward the standards of professionalism, discipline, and showmanship that he had instilled in them. By the time they arrived at Motown, Berry Gordy was handed finished products, polished, stage-ready performers. It's no surprise they went on to become not just the faces of Motown, but of the music industry as a whole. The rest, as they say, is history. Milton continued working in music, managing various groups and acts, and later heading up Operation Soul on Linwood and Cortlandt. He became a well-known figure in the community, opening doors for hundreds of young artists and performers. Sadly, Milton Jenkins passed away on April 21, 1973, at the age of 52. He may not have lived long enough to fully witness the legacy he helped build. Or perhaps people might say he entered the business for personal ambition. But one thing is certain, he saw potential where others didn't. He acted as a bridge for the underprivileged and created opportunities for talents that may have otherwise gone unnoticed. That, without question, can never be taken away from him.